Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be bringing you my reaction to Shadowhunters Season 2, Episode 12, titled You Are Not Your Own. While Valentine and Magnus try to break out of prison, Jace struggles with a new identity, and the Shadowhunters face a possible downworlder uprising. So, I'll admit, I occasionally, when recording an episode, we'll see the synopsis for the next episode. Just my eyes are drawn to it. I read it quickly while I'm starting the video. And the synopsis for this one really had me confused. It's like, why would A, Magnus be in prison, and B, why would he be working with Valentine to escape? Now I know the synopsis is wrong. It should be while Magnus, as Valentine, tries to break out of prison, because they're not working together. It's not two different people. It's just one in someone else's body. Jace struggles with a new identity. I guess that's going into a whole... He has no idea who he is. Like, he's not a Wayland. He's not a Morgenstern. He's, by all accounts, the Lightwoods never officially adopt him, so he's not a Lightwood, even though he could well claim that name and they'd accept it. But yeah, so I guess he doesn't know who he is, so he can be Jace. And a possible downworlder uprising. Now that is interesting. But I guess we'll find out what that's about in 3, 2, 1, go. Who is instituting this? Instituting. Is that the right word? Who is the head of this downworlder uprising? I wonder how this is going to go. Obviously, Alex is going to be the one to find it out. Either by seeing Valentine and realizing it's Magnus, or seeing Magnus and realizing it's Valentine. Which is funny because in the books he worked with demons. Or at least used them as tools, but that's still... There were a couple greater demons that he worked with. Like the Fearbringer. Tell him he's not your brother. Okay. No, she's not. I don't think that's the kayaks. It's daylight, he can't be there. Well, that's very pragmatic. Which I guess is what the Inquisitor should be. You know, definitely not what I expected out of Sebastian. There's also the fact he's meant to have black hair, which I've just remembered. So it's going the Magnus route, okay. It is interesting that they seem to have completely gotten rid of the Penhallows. Because the Lightwoods are meant to be friends with the Penhallows, and the Penhallows are cousins to the Verlax, so. There's already a couple of things in there. Right below the sternum. Well, I guess a knife wouldn't have the velocity, but an arrow does. It's interesting. She says her runes she hasn't been able to use. Like she's the only one who can use them. But there's only one known rune like that in the books. How the hell does a vampire tan, even a daylighter? I did. That's why I brought this whole thing up, but unum ad unum. I know that, but it's like 1 to 1. Okay. That was one of the things that I mentioned was talking about when I said there were a few things wrong with Magnus's phone call. Magnus always calls him Alexander, never Alec. Yep, her son Stephen, who was in the circle. Almost cracked it. Little sister. No. Interesting that they put that mouthing in there. Is this not along the same lines that I brought up in the last episode? Still not seeing anything about a downwater uprising. Could I could really go for some Chinese right now. Maybe Korean. Yeah, I had a feeling this would happen. Oops. Is she meant to be the stand-in for Lily? Hmm. Interesting. That is very interesting. Also interesting that they had a warlock willing to do that for them. He's gonna help someone. Now, there is one thing from the book that I'm curious about. I've alluded to it multiple times in the past without ever actually saying what it is. I wonder if they're going to do that in this. Especially considering things have been more focused on surrounding that than they were in the book. Okay, well, that just. I got my answer. And the answer is no. It's weird seeing Valentine's actor use the same flares that Magnus normally does. And now they're not going to know who's who. Well, that's an issue. How how did they orchestrate that? Unless she took control of the portal. It's interesting that they did translate that to this, because they did actually meet up in Alicante and have a little thing. Hmm. Okay. So they did bring a little bit of it. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure her last words were along the same lines as that. Um, One second. Yeah, it was sort of, and it was either you're just like your father or your father would be proud of you. It was in the books that her say that Stephen would be proud of him. So, okay, I'm going to spoil something because it seems like they're going away from it. Jace and all Herondale men, leading back from Will Herondale in the first prequel series, they're meant to have a star-shaped scar, a birthright of sorts that's only possessed by the men, and Jace's is meant to be right here, just below his left collarbone. And Imogen, on Valentine's boat, she sees that scar, and what she does is first try to put him in a protective area to get him away from the fight, and then when that doesn't work, she actually saves his life from a demon, which costs her her own life. And as she dies, in his arms, she says, "Your father would be proud of you," meaning Stephen. So in that last moment, she knew that her family was not dead, that she did have a grandson. But Jace, he didn't know what she was talking about. He still thought that he was Valentine's son at the time. So, because of the animosity between Inquisitor Herondale and Jace, because of him being Valentine's son, that whole book, he thought that there was one last dig at him. Like, your father would be proud, that monster Valentine would be proud of you. But no, she did mean Stephen. But it seems they're leaning away from that, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, another thing. I don't know if that female vampire that we've seen multiple times is meant to be the stand-in for Lily or not, because she was like the main female vampire from the New York clan, and we've seen this character appear multiple times. Obviously part of the New York clan if she was going with Raphael there. However, big issue with that is it's Lily Chen, and there's very obvious difference between an Asian vampire and a blonde-haired white vampire. And yeah, so I don't know. That's what makes me think that it's not. But in that case, why have her? Why not just have Lily? Then again, all the changes they've made, who knows? Finally, and this bit did surprise me, is so in book 3, after everything on the boat and everything, they go to Alicante. They're gearing up for the final fight against Valentine because he's planning on leading an onslaught on the city because he wants to wipe out all those Shadowhunters who would work with demon-blooded creatures, create his own branch with the Mortal Cup, and then use said Mortal Cup to tell all the demons to kill themselves. Sort of in a final strike, get rid of all the corruption and the demons in the same way, and bring the Shadowhunters back to what they should be. So they're leading up to that. That's why they're all in Alicante. Well, it's not initially why they are, but it's why Clary's there. Also not actually entirely why she's there, but that is the main point of book 3. And so, the Lightwoods, they lost their family home. The Clave re-seized that once they banished Robert and Maris to New York after the uprising. So they were staying with the Penhallows. When Clary arrives, she is all excited to see her friend. She wants to go see her brother. This is after the silly court and everything where it's like the kiss you most want, and she kisses Jace, all that. And so she goes up to the attic, and she sees Jace and Elaine Penhallow making out. And then that whole thing, she decides she wants a distraction. And then Sebastian steps in. It's like, hey, there's things I want to show you. Come with me. I'll take you on a tour of Alicante while all this gets sorted out on the Penhallow side, because he was also there staying with his cousins. And then, well, he takes her on the trip. They come across Ragnar's shack. That's where they have the whole Book of the White sequence. It's Clary and Sebastian there. Sebastian actually gets frozen in place while Clary talks with Magnus. They find Ragnar is dead, having been killed by a demon attack and all of that. This is actually Magnus when he opens the door, he pretends to be Ragnar when speaking to Clary and Sebastian until he's able to free Sebastian. But yeah, and then as they're leaving that, Sebastian and Clary share a kiss. And the fact that in this episode they have Sebastian ask Clary out is surprising. Because that was a minor part, well, somewhat minor part of his character in that book. Anyway, I don't know where that's going to go. Also, they've completely changed up the entire order of operations because Jace isn't meant to find out he's a Herondale until after he learns that he's not demon-blooded, after he learns that he's angel-blooded. And it's obviously not Inquisitor Whitelaw, that's back in the prequel series. Inquisitor Herondale, who tells him all the stuff and gives him something of his father's, is actually Stephen's ex-fiancée, who is Luke's sister. Yeah, so Luke and Clary, both of their parents were in a relationship with one of the Greymark siblings, which is very funny. Now that I've just put that together, but yeah, so it's actually Amatus who still has some of Stephen's stuff from when they were together that actually gives him his father's things and tells him about his father and everything. Because Imogen's dead by that point, so yeah. Also, there's the fact that he's not meant to be able to get a Herondale ring until he actually officially claims the name, and because he then has to send a request through to the Iron Sisters, they forge the ring for him and everything. So it's interesting that he just gets Stephen's ring. And I do say Stephen's because in their marriage ceremony, there's a rune on the arm, there's a rune placed over the heart, and then they exchange family rings. So, say, Celine would have given Stephen the Montclair family ring, and Stephen gave Celine the Herondale family ring. And so it is technically Stephen's ring that he got. But, yeah, so it's interesting. How is that going to change things up? Having an Inquisitor who knows that her grandson's alive is interacting with him and everything. Because, as I said, what did harden Imogen into the woman she is in the books is the fact that Valentine brought Stephen into the circle. He forced Stephen to break up with Amatus to get engaged with someone that Valentine approved of, someone who was also in the circle. And that led to Stephen getting killed, Celine, in her grief, taking her own life, seemingly also killing her unborn child in the process. So the entire family was wiped out like that because of Valentine and everything, because it was a raid that Valentine was leading where Stephen got killed. And so that's what hardened Imogen. That's why she was so hard on Jace, because he was Valentine's son at the time, and she was taking out all her anger she had on his father on him. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because it seems the Inquisitor is going to be here for some time, I guess, because, well, she's already had more to do in this than she did in the book, but anyway, I'm gonna end this one here. I'll catch you in the next one.